Here are the instructions for the interactive school bus card. I'm going to start with the school bus that looks like it's two buses, one on top of the other. This is my card base. There's a score line in the center. I'm just folding down on that score line. I have the liner for the inside. Now I've cut this out of white craft board so that the inside of my card is nice and sturdy. So I've just put glue on the back of the panel and I'm gluing it down so that there's an even border all the way around my bus. This would be for your sentiment and your signature. The next piece I have is my school bus piece. Now I've already applied the vinyl. I have my back door piece. I folded down on the score line and then I placed the little tab into the little slot where the tab eventually will fit. I know that the score line goes just against that cut edge. All those black vinyl pieces are attached in the file, so I kept them attached and applied them, and they just lay exactly where they need to be. And this is the hood of my bus. I'm just gluing it to the front like so. And then I have this piece. I'm just doing it freehand, but you could do it with transfer tape. It's just a little detail. The next I put glue on the underside of these half circles, and I'm just gluing them over the wheel. So these are the wheel wells. I want approximately the same amount of overlap on either side, so I want this centered over the wheel as much as possible. So next I have my wheels. My wheels are just a piece of black cardstock, and I have some black vinyl, and again I'm just doing this freehand, just covering that round piece of cardstock with my vinyl. And then I have these orange circles that I'm going to glue to the center. So these orange pieces are all cut out of 80-pound cardstock. And I'm going to pop my wheels up on a little bit of foam tape. I've just traced my wheels with a pencil over some parchment paper. I've flipped it over and put some very thin foam tape over those two shapes. Now I'm just cutting around those circles, and then I'm removing the parchment paper and placing my foam tape under the wheels. Now the reason why I use the parchment paper like that is because it saves my scissors. If you just try to cut the foam tape with your scissors, it's going to get stuck because this stuff is very, very sticky. But by using the parchment paper, you can just cut into it a little more easily and you're not ruining your scissors. I'm doing the same thing with the second. All right, now for the remaining pieces of black vinyl, you have this one little curved piece. We're just going to add that to the very front of the bus, just along. I'm just doing it freehand again. And then we have all these squares with the rounded corners. And these are the frames for the windows. So I've cut my windows out of iridescent cardstock. You could certainly use silver cardstock or even holographic cardstock to give it like that window pane look. I've got 3 window pieces and I have 3 frames for those. And then I have this little piece. These are the rear view mirrors for the front of my bus. And I have a piece of vinyl that goes over it. Now I cut this out of craft board. You could also cut it out of cardstock. It doesn't really matter. And then I have the door frames to my bus. This thin tab goes towards your right. The thicker tab is going to go to your left. So I'm just adhering my window frames. This is the iridescent cardstock again. I'm adhering the frame with the thicker side towards the bottom. So for both doors, I'm just folding back and forwards on that score line to make sure they open nicely. Then I'm going to put glue just along the tab, so from the score line to the edge. So I've got this tab towards my left, I've got my flap towards the right, and I'm just gluing this with that score line just along the cut edge. Make sure that it opens nicely. I'm going to do that for the other side as well. So I'm just put glue around the tab, and then I've positioned my piece so that the score line is right against the cut edge. My top just barely clears the top of my door. And then those are my printing cut children. I'm just going to center them as best I can in their windows and glue them down. Now for our little windows, one of them is going to go here towards the back of the bus. And then as you open the door on the other side, I have this piece of white cardstock and I'm going to put a window in it as well. So I'm going to flip my door over and just glue that white piece with the window in it to my door. Now again, this is a piece of white craft board, so it makes my door a little sturdier. And then I'm going to put glue along the side tab. Sneak it right up low enough so that it clears the top of the door. I want it to be able to open nicely. This piece eventually will get adhered to the rest, but at this time it's very fragile, so try not to rip it. So this is the background for my bus driver. So I have 4 rectangles. There's the tall one, and then there's the shorter ones, and they each have a little white strip that goes at the top like so, to make them look like stairs. So I'm just gluing those white strips to the top of each one. So now that the white strips are glued down, I'm taking the largest one and I'm gluing it flush with the bottom, flush with both sides. So the middle-sized one, doing the same thing. I want it flush with the bottom and flush with both sides. And then my bottom step, like so. I'm just gluing down the window behind the driver and gluing down my seat and then the driver. Now I have the pieces for my school bus. These are cut out of black craft board, and there are many layers just to accommodate the mechanism. So my base layer has no cutout for the door. So I'm going to take one of my other layers that does have the cutout for the door. It's going to make a very faint outline of that door. So I'm just using those pencil marks to help guide me to place down this piece, like so. The next 3 pieces to glue down are identical, so this is just to add a little bit of thickness to the card, and I'm just gluing them as best I can, one on top of another. Next, I'm going to create the panel for the passenger at the back door. So I've just put a piece of red line tape at the back. You could use glue. So I have this piece of acetate and I have my little pull tab, and I'm just gluing that black piece, and that's going to be the front of my panel. So I have this little yellow strip in the center of the panel like so, and I have my little passenger. So when you're using glue and acetate, you want to give the glue a long time to dry completely. So next I have these 2 pieces that look like picket fences. I'm just going to fold down on these pieces back and forth like so. So I want an accordion fold. So I've done that for both pieces. I'll trim it in the file, but I've trimmed off the little corners of my acetate. When you're putting this together, make sure that the trimmed corners go towards the top, not towards the bottom. So I'm just putting some double-sided tape along the top for both of them, so the angles are opposite like that. You want it to look like a little house. So now I'm going to just release the backing on the double-sided tape. So I'm just gluing that piece right along the edge like so. And I'm putting the other one on the other side like so, right up against the edge at the top as well. And then I'm going to grab my school bus pieces again. I've got one more layer of black craft board, but it has these little panels added to it on each side. So I'm just going to glue that down first. I've flipped my piece upside down. If you've got any glue on these strips on either side, you just want to make sure that they're no longer sticky, that glue dries. So this is my piece with the mechanism, and I'm just gluing it on top of all those layers. Then you have these 2 black rectangles left over out of cardstock, and the longer one, you're going to take it and you're going to thread it in that center column right here, and then you're going to put it so there's almost an even amount, and then you're going to fold it over so that it wraps around the center column like so. You want it so that it moves quite freely. And then you're going to put a bit of glue. You just want to make sure you don't get glue anywhere except between those 2 pieces. You're just gluing that piece to itself so that it becomes the carrier for your mechanism. And then there is another rectangle with the score lines on it, and you want to do like you did for the other pieces and just fold it in an accordion fashion, so back and forth, so that it looks like this. And next you're going to move that piece as far down as it will go, a little bit of glue just in the center. You're going to take your little accordion piece that you've just folded up. You want it glued down only to that little black ring, so it still pops up when you let go. The last fold is adhered to that black piece. And you're going to put glue all along that top panel. So these accordions are folded under, and the points are right at the bottom of this orange piece. And I've got her layered right on top of that middle piece here. And once you bring her down, those accordions are free. I'm just going to carefully place her upwards like so. I'm going to flip my piece around, and then I'm going to take this extra piece. I'm just putting a dot of glue here and a dot of glue on the other one as well, and then pressing down on them like so. So it's a little bit of a bridge between the two pieces. So this is the decorated front of my school bus. I'm just going to put glue all along the bottom here. I'm going to put a very, very thin bead of glue just on the edge here, because this is where my tab is going to go in. Bit of glue here, and then on the tab for the door, all along the wheel wells. It's okay to cover the tabs in glue, but avoid the doors themselves. Flipping this around and gluing it all in place. You have to be careful around that door. You want to make sure that it still opens. I'm just lifting this a little bit just to make sure that that tab goes in a little more easily. Now I'm just gluing down the windshield of my bus and the backup mirrors. I have a little decorative handle for the back door. This little tiny piece. It's out of cardstock. You could make this out of vinyl if you have a coordinating color. I have this white piece that goes on the top. And my little red pieces. And again, I'm going freehand with these, my little red pieces of vinyl. And then I have my card base. So I'm just putting glue everywhere except that door opening. And you don't want to put any glue on any of this. And then I'm just aligning it. I'm being careful that those accordion pieces are being folded in there, double checking that the mechanism works. And so that's my interactive school bus card.